Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Classroom Book Talk with Sora, the series where educators share how they bring books to life in their classroom. Naomi, I am the social media manager for Sora, and today we're discussing strategies for fostering strong, sustainable summer reading habits for students of all ages. Joining me today is Melanie from Melanie in the Library. Melanie, thank you so much for being here today. Can you start us off by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit more about you?
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I'm Melanie. I am an elementary school librarian. My building that I see is kindergarten through fifth grade. This is my fourth year in the library, and I just love it. Love using Sora and gearing up for summer reading. We're excited.
Yay, so exciting how you just talked about gearing up for summer reading. That's the whole topic for today. And my very first question is, why do you think summer reading is so critical for students? And what happens when kids don't read over the break?
Right. So I'm a parent myself, and I feel like around this time of year, you start seeing all the little things pop up on social media, just the feed or the memes of like, I don't even, well, no, we won't call them memes. We'll call them like infographics that
Hmm.
show up online of like, this is what happens when your kids don't read. Or if you just read 5 books this summer, here's what it could do for your kid. And I think about reading as like a muscle, and it's something that our kids have to train and practice. And if they take 2 months off and they don't do it, it's just going to be that much harder come fall time to get back in the swing of building that reading habit, building that life of a reader. And I mean, they're not getting a formal education most of the time in the summer. So the best
Hmm.
thing that we can do is just continue to foster that love of reading so that they can hit the ground running in the fall when they're back in school.
Yeah, 100%. It's like most things, like if you take time off from the gym or any type of sport for like 2 months, it's kind of like you're back in square one. So that
Yep.
makes so much sense. What do you think are some of like the common barriers that prevent students from reading during the summer? Of course, besides like all of the fun activities and everything, but what do you think are some of the common barriers there?
I think access to books is a huge
Hmm.
barrier, which is where, you know, Sora comes in because I would venture to guess most kids have access to some bit of technology in their home these
Hmm.
days. I also think it's kind of hard depending on what your parents are doing over the summer. Like if a kiddo has working parents, or maybe they're with a babysitter or a nanny, or they're at a summer camp, you know, that can be a barrier for sure. And so in our library, it's just trying to find ways that we can make reading easy for everybody
Hmm.
to access over the summer to kind of bring those barriers, take them away a bit, I guess
Yeah.
you could say. But yeah, just getting access to books that the kids like and want to read
Hmm.
over the summer and will keep their, you know, keep them engaged because they don't have a teacher there every day checking in, like, how's it going? Let's keep pushing. Let's keep pushing. So it's kind of up to them and the parents.
Yeah, 100%. And even if like they're going on road trips or anything, there is time on the road trip to read.
Oh, for
And
sure.
especially with Sora, you can also put in your public library card in there, so you still have that access. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's something that we are doing right now, actually, with the kids as we're done checking out books right now in library as we get ready for summer break. And so they're bringing Chromebooks. We're reminding them, like, hey, here's how to put the library card in. And now you've just like essentially tripled your titles that you have
Yeah.
access to, and showing them like sweet reads and like, here's how we can
Hmm.
get stuff. So we do kind of like a little warm up while we're still in school so that once we send them off on their own. And I always tell my parents, like, put it on your phone, listen in the
Hmm.
car. Like, I have it on my phone for my kid, and we listen to audiobooks while we drive to practice or whatever.
Yeah, I also have it on my phone and I have Libby and then I also have Sora. And if
Yep.
something's not available on Libby and it's YA, it's usually
We
on
go to
Sora. I
Sora.
can
Yep.
I can definitely get it. Besides all of those little strategies that you just talked about, like prepping them with Sora Sweet Reads or other things, do you have any other like simple strategies that you think teachers or parents can introduce before summer to help students build that reading habit?
Yeah, one of the things, I mean, just reading, it's like giving them time to just read and just find what they love. I, in the library, I'm giving kids time to build reading lists. And so I like kind of explained, I was like, in the
Mhm.
grown up world on Goodreads, we call this a TBR.
Yeah.
And so now I've got like my fourth and fifth graders like, I'm adding that to my TBR. And they just think there's, you know, it's so cool to
Mhm.
talk like the grown-ups do. So we're building lists in Sora because we talk about like, if you have a chance to read, you want your stuff to be readily accessible. You don't want to have to go digging through Sora to find something. Like when you have time to read, like, let's go, let's have a book ready. So we're building those lists and having them ready. I think having Sora accessible on whatever device your kid
Mhm.
has access to is great. For us at our school, I'm getting ready for like all of the summer reading programs that like all of the restaurants do and the
Mhm.
library, and just giving them all of that paperwork so they can have that and, earn a free pizza. Like Pizza Hut's bringing back Book It. So, like,
Yeah.
read a book, get a pizza. And so just trying to like gather all of those incentives because I really think like every little bit counts in the summer to get them ready. So we'll go over all of that next week in library and get them all excited.
I love that. I love a summer reading list. I feel like that's probably the most exciting reading time of the year for me. I feel like a romance is fun for the summer, also like a summer thriller, like it's fun, a coming of age. Like there's so much to read during the summer.
Yeah.
So, my next question is, how do you think educators or librarians can make summer reading feel exciting rather than like an assignment? Because, like, you always hear, like, oh, like the summer reading, like, did you read the book over the summer that you were assigned to read?
Yep. Yep.
What do you think people can be doing to make that feel a little bit more exciting?
Yeah, I think like just like I was saying, like all the stuff we're putting together from things around town, like I really appreciate the shift is no longer like read this book. It's like just
Mhm,
read, read a
mhm,
book, read minutes. It doesn't matter. And I tell the kids
mm,
too, like, just read. And I think having that freedom is like so exciting to just be able to finally like you're not reading something because your teacher said we're in a historical fiction genre. Like we can just read what we want.
mhm,
The other thing that I feel like they don't know, but I kind of find it for them on Sora is the kids, I show them the magazines. Like, they don't even know what a magazine is, first of all. Like, so I'm like, look at this. Like, this is pop culture. And so, like, that's exciting. Or I like get the sports magazines with the stats. And so, like, I am always trying to just find that thing to connect with them. And I tell them, like, you could read a cereal box for all I care. Like, if your eyeballs are seeing words or you are listening to somebody read you a story, and we talk about like audiobooks are reading, like, there's no like, does this count? Like, I tell them anytime information goes from somebody else into your brain, that counts. It all counts. And so it stretches their mind, it stretches their, just ability to learn and comprehend new things. And then, like I said, pizza, a good Pizza Hut bucket pizza gets them
mhm.
excited. We've got like a dessert shop in town that gives out desserts. And so I bundle all of that up and we just talk about like, hey, do you want to win this? Do you want to win that? And then I just show them what it's attached to
Mhm.
and they get really excited.
Yeah, I love that gamification, like reading challenge type
For sure.
of moment. I wanna move to St. Louis.
Right.
I
Come
feel
on
like
over. We got all
yeah,
kinds of free food if you read a book.
I feel like we have one like that in Cleveland a while ago that it was more like minutes. And I do and like I appreciate that also the student choice that they get to read whatever it is. And like I remember back when I was in school, it was like you have to read over the summer like this classic book. But now it's more of like choose whatever you want, whether it's like magazine, like you said, or graphic novels. Like that was our whole last episode was all about graphic novels and how a lot of those like classics are now graphic novels and you're still getting the same story and still reading. So if it does make you a little bit more excited to read a graphic novel or manga or something else, like it still does count. So
Totally. Totally.
yeah. Yeah. I do think getting the students to choose what they want to read is definitely helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel
And
like if they
keeps them
don't have
engaged.
right, if they don't have the
Mhm.
buy-in, then you're not gonna sustain it. It's just a
Mhm.
chore, right? So it's like
Yeah.
if you can the other big thing that we do is I have a social media, not my Melanie in the library, but I have
Mhm.
one for school that's geared towards
Yep.
families. And so I am like constantly posting like this kid went to Barnes and Noble and look at the prize they got. And then there's the little bit of FOMO of like, well, I want to brag about my kid. Well,
Yeah.
you can't brag about your kid if you don't take him to Barnes and Noble to do
Mhm.
the reading challenge. So just pumping everybody up on social media. And it's just another way to like stay connected while we're
Mhm.
all away in the summer.
Yeah, it definitely keeps them engaged, and I do think that extra aspect 'cause, there wasn't really any social sharing when I was
Yeah,
in school, and I think that social sharing also helps, like, keep the students engaged and just, like, engaged in all of the activities. That makes sense, yeah. Do you have any tips for helping students stay engaged with digital reading platforms over the break?
I think just with anything, they need familiarity with the app, right? So they need to like know how to navigate it. And that's where like my role comes in as librarian is like give them time to practice and be familiar with it. And giving parents access, especially at the elementary level. Like I need my parents to download it on their apps or on their iPads or have it in the car. So just one, like have the access to it and then just make sure that the kids really know how to navigate the platform. Once you put it in front of them, they're great. It's
Mhm.
perfect. They know exactly what to do. It's just like the first hump of getting them on and ready for the first time really helps.
Yeah. I think I spend a lot more time on like Sora or reading platforms like scrolling and
Mhm.
like searching and looking around rather than
Yeah.
actually reading sometimes.
Right. Right.
So yeah, and especially with like Sora, it's a pretty simple like platform as well. So I think it's yeah, pretty easy. I had a question because I know like growing up, my parents were not big readers at all. So I kind of foster that in like myself. I don't know. I've always been a reader, but do you have anything that librarians or teachers can use to encourage families to support reading at home, even if they're not like big readers themselves? And it's not because from personal experience, I never saw my parents sitting down and like reading a book or anything like that. And they never really encouraged me to read. I just kind of grew that love myself. So I don't know. Is there anything you can say to that?
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's interesting because I kind of now I'm like reflecting on myself as a parent and
Hmm.
like if I'm reading, it's usually with headphones in while I'm doing the dishes. So I'm like, well, gosh, I guess my kid doesn't really see me read either, you know? But then I guess reading looks so different today
Hmm.
versus 30 years ago. So I think just like talking about the books, I think the
Hmm.
biggest thing that I tell my families here at school is I'm like, do an audiobook in the car like a kid audiobook, you could do a Magic Tree House, and I think the runtime is like an hour 35. I'm like, I guarantee you're going to spend an hour 35 in your car going to soccer and the Chick-fil-A line and back home. And I was like, just do try one with your kid. I said, the other thing when I'm talking to parents about reading is just like, if you want to score the most points and be the coolest parent on the block, buy a graphic novel, sit down and ask your kid to teach you how to read a graphic novel. I'm sure that the parents can figure it out, but I'm like,
Hmm.
you will win your child over and they will probably do any reading that you ask them to if you ask to engage with a graphic novel. Like that
Yeah.
is like the number one thing I think parents can do. And I don't necessarily know that I mean, modeling is great, but like I'm a mom of two. I am busy. It is hard for me to just like sit down on the couch with a
Hmm.
physical book in hand and read. And I would love for my kids to see that. However, this season of life, like we're just not there. Now, summer break, they're going to see me on the driveway reading much more than they are right now while I'm trying to get ready for summer. But
Hmm.
I think just engaging with your kids or like asking, what are you reading? Or, you know,
Hmm.
the topics of screens are kind of weird right now. And so it's just like, hey, you can have the iPad and I put Sora on it for you. Like, I want you to
Hmm.
use the iPad right now for Sora. Like, that's going to win some major points with your kiddo when normally it's like, well, we don't do tablets on school nights, but you
Hmm.
can use it for Sora. Like, that's a perfect excuse to use the iPad. So I think
Yeah.
just finding those ways to connect would be fabulous for parents.
Yeah. I agree with that nowadays, like, reading looks so different, whether it's, like, on a Kindle, like, "Oh, mommy's, like, on the tablet, but she's reading."
Right,
Or, like,
right,
if you do have your headphones on and you're, like, doing the dishes and stuff, but, like, I'm sure, like, your kids know, like, mommy's listening to her audiobook, like, if we talk to
right.
her, we know that she can't hear
Yes,
us right now.
yes.
So, it does look so different, like, besides, like, from back in the day, so that is very interesting, and I do love that about the graphic novel, and, like, I feel like that's so cool, like, if my mom would have been, like brought a manga home and been like,
Yeah,
"Show me how to read this." And yeah, and I feel like just asking in general, I feel like in general for me, like I read a lot, but like my mom didn't really a lot of time had the time to like ask me like, "What are you reading about?" and stuff. And like nowadays, we'll see a movie and I'm like, "Oh yeah, like that's a book I read that," and like she'll ask me now,
yeah,
but not as much back when I was younger. I
yeah.
agree with that. Yeah, I feel like that's definitely a great way to talk to your kids about reading and encourage them to read more. That's awesome. What are some creative ways that you have to motivate more reluctant readers or kids that have always said like, "Oh, I don't really like reading," or like they're just not readers at all in general, and maybe during the summer months as well?
Yeah, I think if you can find like the grossest book possible, like truly that they're hooked. There's a book, Butterface. That one
Mm,
gets them every time. It's have you seen it? It's nonfiction.
no.
It is as zoomed in as close as you can be of some exotic animal, and you have to
Mhm.
say, is it a butt or a face? And then the next page you flip and you find out if it's the starfish's butt or the starfish's eyeballs.
Obsessed.
And
Wait.
it is disgusting, and they love it, and it is hilarious. I think the 4th one's coming out, or it's, like, out now, but it's, like it's hilarious. It's disgusting, and they love it, and then you can have them they'll read, "Oh, look at you. You just read 40 pages trying to guess if it was a butt or a face." So,
Mhm.
like, that is a great hook. Any of those, like, Nat Geo, like, Weird But True, like, those fast fact books, I feel like are great because you could pick it up and start in the middle. You could just flip to a random page. Like, it doesn't feel daunting. It's not like, "Hey, here's a
Mhm.
300-page novel. Go knock it out." Like, that's not gonna be how you're gonna hook that reader. And I think just, like, again, I've said this before, but, like, everything counts in the library, at least for me, right? Like, you does this like, kids ask me all the time, "Does this count?" And I'm like, "Stop asking that. Is it a book? Yes, that counts." There's no, like,
Mhm.
who's the referee? Who's
Yeah.
keeping score? Like, it's then so, like, trying to, like, kinda break that stigma of, like, well, that's not real reading, right?
Mhm.
Like, no, it's a book. It's content. It's going into your brain from somebody else's brain. It counts. And so I think just kind of like removing that piece of like everything counts. A magazine counts. Like that's not a thing. Audio counts. Graphic novel. Dave Pilkey, you want to read the same Captain Underpants 500? Gone. Like I don't care. You're reading a book.
Mhm.
You could be playing a video game instead, but instead you're reading the same book 500 times. So
Mhm.
that's fine. So I think just kind of like that's my vibe. That's like that's the attitude I have. And so I feel like because of that, then kids feel comfortable just grabbing whatever. They don't feel like they have to meet a standard. And I feel like at home, when you're talking about summer reading, thinking about, I know as a parent, it's really hard because you think about like, well, when I was in school, I would have
Mhm.
never been able to read this. Well, no, just your kid has a book in their hand.
Yeah.
Like let's look at the root of that. Your kid has a book in their hand. Who cares what it is?
Mhm.
I feel like I say this all the time to teachers, but I'm like, it's gonna be a lot easier for you to educate a child who enjoys reading versus educating a child who is going to resist reading at every turn. So, like,
Mhm.
let's just first build the love, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. I keep looking over because I looked up that book that you sent me, and I'm like, "I gotta read this. I gotta know if
You
it's a
do.
face or not." But yeah, I agree with that. I feel like still nowadays, like, even on social media and stuff, like, I still get people telling me, like, "Oh, audiobooks, like, they don't really count as reading," and all this stuff, and I mean, I didn't really have audiobooks when I was in middle school. They were, like, coming out, like, in the little, like, cassette thing that you would get from the
Mhm.
library.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, and I would take it with me to the gym and stuff. But yeah, I don't think it wasn't as well known, and I feel like if I had, like, librarians and teachers telling me, like, "Oh, it does count, like, it's important to just read it," and I feel like nowadays too, it's not easier, but just a little bit more, I guess, easier to engage students because there's so many, like, adaptations and stuff, and I feel like kids get excited too about, like, "Well, this is becoming a movie, I have to read it and, like, know what it is before I watch the movie." So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's
awesome.
interesting. I just thought of I went last year and saw the author. His name's Wade. He writes under Viola Shipman, and he was in St. Louis, and he was talking about he writes like he says, like what he writes is sometimes referred to as like chick lit. And he was like, there's this stigma that like if you're an adult and you're like, oh, it's a beach read, it's a
Mhm,
chick lit. Like he's like, what do all of those stories have in common? Like they're about women and they're about like the female experience. And he's like, why do we like put that down? Like, why do
mhm,
we consider that to like not be literature? And he's like, why is it always like, why are we putting down somebody's experience? And then I
mhm,
took that like from the adult perspective, but then I'm thinking about like, how does that apply to kids? Like, why are we
mhm.
putting down if a kiddo is so into this Star Wars graphic novel and we're always putting it down, like what are we saying about what we think about that kid? Like
Mhm,
that's the thing you like and we're always putting it down. So then how are they going to start seeing themselves?
mhm.
That's just not, I don't know. That's just not cool. I
Yeah,
don't know how else to say it. Like it's
yeah,
just not, we wouldn't do that with any other
mm,
topic. If a kid came in and talked about
mhm.
a sport, we wouldn't do that.
Yeah,
So it's funny. I feel like we've come a long way, but I feel like we have
yes.
work to do.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I think, even nowadays, like how you said with the chick lit and stuff and, like, trying to read, like, literary fiction and stuff, and that makes you, like, smarter, like, it really doesn't. It's a book. There are times that I wanna read for fun, and there are times that I wanna read to learn something, and it depends on my mood and where I'm at,
Right.
and sometimes I don't wanna read physically, I don't have the time, and,
Right.
there's many different factors, so I totally agree with that. So, my next question is if a teacher or school librarian could just do one thing right before summer starts, which is right around the corner, maybe they don't have a ton of time. If you could just tell them, like, do this one thing right before summer, what would you recommend for them to do to get students excited about reading and everything like that?
I think, especially at the elementary level, if you could give your kids a list of recommendations. Now, I know we just talked about like, you don't like, we don't want to say go home and read. You have to read The Wild Robot this summer. But if you could say, my gosh, these are the 10 best books I have ever read, and like truly mean it, like actually
Mhm,
know the books, like actually be able to talk to the books with the kids. These elementary school kids hang on your every word. So I promise you, my kid who is in second grade, I am begging every single day, read this, read this. No, but if his second grade teacher says, "Oh my gosh, you would love this book." He's home and we're on Amazon that night and we have to buy it. And we cannot do anything else until we've purchased it because his second grade teacher is God and she said we have
mhm,
to have it. And seriously, I mean, these elementary school kids, they just idolize their teachers as they should because they're
mhm,
fabulous human beings. And so I think if they can just make true, genuine recommendations to kiddos before they go off on their way and like really talk about books and know books, like if they know that you care about books, they're going to want to kind of
mhm,
live up to that too and be able to come back next fall and be like, "Hey, if you read that this summer, swing by my room next year and like let's talk about it." And then that gives them also that like chance to come back and like see their old teacher. And I think they really do. They hang on your every word at the elementary school level. And I think it makes an impact. And then you can tell them about the food. You can say you can get, I think Pizza Hut's paper says you can get up to 5 personal pan pizzas per family per month. I'm
listen.
like, hello, that's 5 pizzas, guys. Like, when mom says no, I got you a free pizza right here. So, like, what else do you want from me?
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I've speaking of like reading lists, I feel like I get this question like all the time of like people ask me like recommend me a book or like what's one of your favorites and I'm like it depends. Like
Yeah,
when people
like,
ask me like what's my favorite, I'm like what genre? First of all, and then second when somebody asks me like recommend me a book, I'm like, well, what are some of your favorites? Or if you don't read a lot, like what are some of your favorite TV shows? Because then I can go
right,
off from that because I
for
there's
sure.
yeah, because I feel like there's so many people that are like, "Oh, I'm not really a big reader." Like one of my best friends, when I first met her, she was like, "I don't really read and stuff." And then as I got to know her, I got her like the sports romance book and now she's like a reader. Like she reads
Yep.
all the time and it's like that one gateway book that will
Yes.
get them in. So yeah, I'm wondering like I said, I just went on the spiel that like there's so many
Right.
different books for different students, but are there any like books that you always have like as a recommendation, maybe
Yeah, Butterface for, like, the non-readers. I feel like and I literally just told this to a kid yesterday. He was like, "There's no good books in the library." I was like, "Well, 1, wrong. You're incorrect. There's 10,500 books, and I will find you one that you like." And 2, I always recommend Percy Jackson to my boys. Like, my
Yes.
non-readers, Percy Jackson like, not non-readers, like, boys that will read if you really get
Mhm,
them into it, even my girls, but, like, my boys that are tough, I'm like, "Read book 1. Just read it, and if you hate it, you can come tell me." And then they come
mhm.
back, they're like, "Okay, I need number 2." I was like, "That's right.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you."
yeah,
So Percy Jackson is great. There's a St. Louis tie-in when they go to the Arch, so I'm always like, "Oh, and
yeah,
the Arch is in it." So we talk about that. Right now, we are on a, like, huge mystery kick. I do this, like, lunch and listen thing with my 5th graders, and we are working back through Liar's Society by Alison Gerber that we just love, and then James Ponti, anything of his is just incredible, and then I tell them, like I saw James Ponti at a conference in Missouri, and he talked about how he got to start actually working for Nickelodeon and writing TV, like, writing shows, and I was like, "Guys, like, he was good enough to work for Nickelodeon, so, like, he's gonna be good enough to write books." So, I
mhm,
can get them hooked on that, but yeah, those are some of my go-tos that I'm like,
yeah.
"Okay, read it, and if you hate it, come back," and they never do.
I think that's also great, the author events and stuff, I feel like kids are always like maybe they don't wanna read it or something, but, like, once they meet them and start
Yes.
talking to them and stuff, they're al like, I feel like that's always, like, an incentive to want to read their book. Also, I just looked up The Liar Society. I do
Oh, it's
love middle
good.
grade and especially,
Okay.
like, mystery and stuff, so, yes, this
I'm
looks so
rereading
fun.
it right now. We're at this huge pivotal moment, but I can only do my lunch and listen on Tuesdays and Fridays, and I can't pick it back up until this Friday with the kids, and we left on, like, the biggest cliffhanger, and I was like they were like, "Please." It's like, "Sorry, you gotta go to class, bye."
Yeah.
But no, that author has been to St. Louis a couple times. Book
Mhm.
3 just came out, book 4
Ooh.
was just announced, and that's the other thing too, is, like, a good series. Give them
Mhm.
a series because then it's like you fall in love with the characters and then they wanna keep going and then the work
Yeah,
is done. Like, I don't have to like, I just get them going on a series and I'm set.
yeah. Would you say for your library, you get more, like, middle grade or, like, high schoolers? Oh, wait, did you say you go up to
I'm
what
up
grade?
to 5th grade. Yeah, 5th grade.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that's
so
not high schoolers.
no, not yet. I did have a group of 5th grade girls last year get into some YA, and then it kinda
Love.
snowballed, and I was like, "Mm, you know what? You can ask next year when you go to middle school." It was like one, like, legit reader figured it out, well, then her friends were figuring it out, and they were non-readers, and they were asking
Mhm.
for certain books, and I was like, "You know what? We're out of time."
Yeah, I love that. Alright, I think my very last question, we kinda talked about some of the, like, recommendations that you have, but do you have any favorite recent reads that you kinda just talked about Lunch and Listen, but any favorite recent reads that you've read in the library, in the classroom, maybe yourself or with your kids?
Yeah, so we just got what is it called? Who Ate Steve? It's a picture book, but it is
Ooh.
yes, it's a bird, Marcel and Steve keeps getting eaten, and at the end, there's a little twist. There's a little twist, and I just read it to 5th grade, and they about died. It was pretty funny because it's like that really dry humor that they have to,
Mhm,
like, really pay attention to. It kinda goes over the little kids' heads. So I love a good picture book that you can read, like, all the way up to the 10 and 11-year-olds, and they still think it's cool and funny. So that was hilarious. And then oh, another thought back to, like I don't know if you wanna edit this later, but, like, another thing for summer reading is, like, each state has an award list, and so, like, the
yes.
award list for next year is already out, and I do an
Mhm,
incentive with my kids where if they read a certain number, they earn
mhm,
prizes along the way during the school year. So I always say, like, "Hey, the list is out, like, you could start
mhm,
doing the Mark Twain Award books this summer and come into school with some of them done." So, like, pushing those 26, 27 award list books for the
mhm,
summer, and our public libraries already have them already and on display. So that's another good, like, if you need something to hook them and you do reading incentives at school, like, you can totally use those lists to your advantage and have
mhm.
them start working on that. Which takes me back to a book I just read this year. During my lunch and listens, I've been reading the award books with the kids just so more kids could have access. And we did How to Stay Invisible. My God, like I
Ooh.
there were many times that I was reading this book to these 5th grade kids, mostly girls that would come, and I was like, "You guys, if this page doesn't end well, I'm going home." And they're like we're all, like, sitting there in tears, and I'm like, I swear, you can go tell our principal I'm headed out." Like, I there were it was, like, just heart-wrenching, but good, but sad.
Is that one by Maggie Rudd?
Yeah. Yeah. So
I'm
good.
looking up your I have a tab with the Liar Society, one with this one. And this is what always happens at the end of all of these episodes. I'll ask this question, and then I just have, like, a million Goodreads
Yeah,
tabs on
there you go.
my computer.
Yeah, that
I
one
love
was
it.
so good.
Okay.
Really good. Away is another have you read Away
No.
by I think it's Megan Freeman. It's written in verse. That's another
Ooh,
thing.
I
Those,
love
like,
that.
reluctant readers, like, you give them a
Mhm.
big fat book in verse and they think it's so cool, but then they can
Yes.
crank it out. Away was so good. There's a sequel that's out. That's
Okay.
that I tell kids a lot of times, like, that's, like, up there, like, as my number 1 book. Like,
I
it's I don't
love
know.
dystopian.
Yes, it's good.
Okay.
It's set in Colorado.
Ooh, okay.
It's good. So that's up there for me. The other one that we read, it was an award book by Jarrett Lerner. Oh my god, it's gone.
Let me
What's it
see.
called?
Jared
It's
Lerner?
Jarrett with 2 T's, and it is called A Work in Progress, and it's about a boy who is really insecure about his body and
Okay,
how he's just kinda, like, going through it. It's also written in verse,
okay.
which was just really cool to read to kids.
Mhm,
Especially 5th grade, we read that one out loud, and it was kinda like he had some body image issues, but it was
mhm.
just interesting coming from a boy's perspective,
Yeah.
and, like,
Mhm,
my girls were kind of like, "I didn't know boys cared about this," and I'm
mhm.
like, "Well, I didn't either, like,
Yeah.
I didn't know this was a thing," and so, like,
Mhm.
just a book that, like, can strike a conversation like, that was a good
Yeah.
one to do with a group, and, like, we had some really deep conversations.
I love that very different perspectives also. I feel like that's also the point of reading, like,
Right,
learning from different
right.
perspectives. I love that, and you speaking about novels and verse, I remember I used to always recommend Elizabeth Acevedo, The Poet X. It's written
Okay.
in verse. I love that book, and it's all about, like, Hispanic, Latino culture, so I always recommend that one. But I have all of these on my tabs now. This one looks so sweet but sad.
Which one?
The A
How
Work
does
in
it
Progress.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's cool too because he's an illustrator, so, like, it's written I mean, I guess you could do an audio. However, that one is cool to see physically because it's, like, kind of like his journal, the kid
Okay.
and the story, so it's, like, there's some parts where you really need the visual, and we, like,
Mhm.
talked about how that's cool and how he's kinda blended, like, his work like, the Jarrett Lerner, the author, illustrator,
Mhm.
kinda blended his 2 worlds to write this novel, but also there's the illustration piece, and
Yeah,
it's cool.
that's really
Yeah.
cool. I love that. I have all of these now. Now I have 4 new books on my
There
TBR.
you
Thank
go.
you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, that was my very last question. Melanie, thank you so much for joining us today. I will have your links and everything down below. And thank you for sharing your insights and everything about summer reading. If you're an educator looking to build more inclusive and engaging reading experiences, explore what Sora has to offer, and be sure to subscribe for more classroom book talk conversations with educators who are bringing books to life every day. We'll see you next time.